Hello, and thank you for joining us for our NetSuite Saved Searches webinar today. I'm Olivia Leonards, the Marketing Manager for the Oracle NetSuite practice here at GSI. Today, we are going to be uncovering the power of NetSuite and how you can improve visibility into your business with NetSuite Saved Searches. Emerald Morgan, one of our NetSuite experts, is going to be walking us through an overview of NetSuite Saved Searches, showing us the interface, showing us easy ways to create a saved search, and how to use shortcuts to find the fields that you want. So many of our clients come to us with the problem of having many disparate systems that don't talk to each other and just not having the accurate visibility into their data. And as we always say, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. If you want to move your financial data to a central point of information, the best feature to manipulate this data will be a NetSuite saved search. So we're going to show you today just how user-friendly NetSuite saved searches are, how they can improve your reporting, and just how truly flexible and powerful this tool is. So before we proceed, I'd like to tell you a bit about GSI as a company. We are one of the premier Oracle NetSuite partners, and we provide a comprehensive suite of consulting services, including NetSuite implementations, our NetSuite SuiteCare support services, custom development, integrations, and more. What really sets us apart is not only are we NetSuite experts with 20 plus years of success in the Oracle ERP space, but we are business experts as well. We have accountants, supply chain experts, former CFOs, and CEOs on our team who truly understand how critical the software is to the overall success of your business. We are passionate about challenging our clients with a real world understanding of how business process changes within the software will impact the overall business. So, without further ado, let's dive into the NetSuite platform and learn a bit more about saved searches with Emerald.
We're going to begin talking about what are saved searches. And to really understand what saved searches are, we first need to have a little bit of background information on NetSuite in general. So behind the NetSuite interface is a database that stores all the information you enter in the fields on your screen. To pull that data out, we need to create a query for the system using a language like SQL. But not many of us really know how to use a query language, so NetSuite created a tool to perform a database query without having to know or use a technical language. Safe searches are a powerful resource to pull data from almost anywhere in the system. So, why don't we talk about what we can do with a saved search? So, if we navigate to Reports, Saved Searches, All Saved Searches, and New, it'll take us to a list of every record that we can create a query or saved search for. Now you'll notice that this is a very long list. And some of these, like transaction, have sub-record types like sales orders, transfer orders, item fulfillment, work orders. These are all under transaction. So even though this list is long, there's an even longer list if you add in all of those sub-records you have access to. So the main uses for safe searches are things like reporting. So here I have opened a saved customer search. And we can use a saved search to report information back in a table format. So you can see here that each customer has a single line with rows and columns. And it allows us to edit and bring back different columns as we need. Now, this tool can also be used for many things on our home dashboard. Things like reminders, bills to pay, late sales orders, in progress, partially fulfilled sales orders. These are all sourced from a saved search. So when you go to setup, all of these are saved searches that are pulling through to this number. We can also use saved searches as individual tiles on our dashboard. From personalize, we can go to custom search. And when we add that tile to our dashboard, we can then set up and select our saved search. As you can see here, I have an example of that saved search of System Notes Audit Log. We can set up saved searches as KPIs. So here I have a KPI tile, and the source of data or information that pulls for this KPI, these are each saved searches. And once again, that's under our setup. And we can choose to add a standard KPI, which are saved searches that came built in with your system, or custom KPIs, which are saved searches that you have created since you set up NetSuite. Saved searches can also be used as list views. So if we go to list accounting items, it'll take us to this list of items. This is actually a saved search. As you can see, it looks very similar to the saved searches that we were looking at before on customers. This saved search, if we open up an item record, I have one open here, and we go to the related records, saved searches can also be used as sublists. So here under the item OPR002, we have a sublist of all the transactions related to that item. This is sourced from a saved search. We can also set saved searches as workflow triggers, and we can set them as a field source. So customization, fields, and choose your field type. Under validating and defaulting, we can choose a search for this to source from. Now, there are rules and things that go along with how to source the saved search, how it needs to be built, and how to populate the correct summary for this field. But that'll be talked about on a different video. We'll get into more detail about custom fields, as well as how to use saved searches as a workflow trigger and other things. Let's go over another really nice feature of saved searches. So you can see here, I already have a transaction saved search open, and it's specifically looking at work orders. Now, on the email tab of the saved searches, we can actually set up automated emails to be sent based on rules or a schedule to specific recipients. You can have multiple recipients or only one. You can have dynamic recipients that allow you to send based on results from the saved search. So these are just a few of the many ways that saved searches are used across the system of NetSuite. Today, we will only be covering the basics of the saved search interface. While we might touch on topics that are more advanced, those will be covered in other videos in our saved search series. So to begin, let's go to a saved search that we've been working on. We'll go to Reports, Saved Searches, All Saved Searches. And I can set filters here if I need to, but I'm going to scroll down. And our items with bins test is the one we've been working on, and that's where I'll go back to. So first, we're going to be showing you guys the fields up here, these little check boxes, and explaining just briefly what they are. So these check boxes, we're going to start with the public. This means that anyone with access to item records or whatever record you're creating the saved search for, they have access to that record. They're going to be able to see your saved search. Our next one is available as list view. This means that the saved search is going to show up in the views drop-down list. So if we come to a list, such as our items list, that means it's going to show up here in this views drop-down list. Available as dashboard view. So what that means is that on our dashboard, if we add a list portlet, which is this items here, if we add that list portlet in our views list here, we will be able to see our items within test view. The next one is going to be available as sublist view. So that would be if we were viewing an item and we went to a sublist, such as the transaction sublist, our saved search that we're creating would show up in this drop-down list. Now, the saved search we are creating is an item saved search, not a transaction saved search. So it's not going to show up in this list view. Then you have available for reminders. Now, I hope you're familiar with your reminders portlet, but if you're not, this is a very helpful portlet on our home dashboard. So whenever we select available for reminders checkbox, we can see in our setup of our reminders, it will show up here in our list of saved searches for reminders. Now, my available for reminders is not checked, so we don't see it in this saved search list. The next is show in menu. That means if this box is selected, when we go to reports, saved searches, that our saved search would show up here in this list. And there it is. Available as product feed may or may not be available for your instance of NetSuite, so I will not be covering available as product feed. If you want more details on any of these checkboxes, feel free to hover over the name and click, and you'll see a description box pops up, and this is called a field help box. You can find this all over NetSuite. Now we're going to go on a tour of the tabs. The first tab that we see is our criteria tab, and we've briefly discussed it before, but this is where we set filters on our data's results. Using a drop-down of list of all the fields, we can determine what results are going to be brought back. And depending on what type of field we select, depends on what kind of filter it allows us to add. The next one is our results tab. We can select a field from here, and that's going to add a column to our results. We can add a field, we can remove fields, and we can even move fields, rearranging them so that our saved search is exactly how we need it. The next tab is our highlighting tab. This is typically considered a more advanced in detail in another video, but just the basics is you set a specific condition and you can set icons to be displayed. You can change the color of the text. You can change the background color, or you can bold your text so that any result that meets the condition that you've set here will be applied that formatting. The available filters. Sometimes we want to allow user to filter the results further without restricting the overall saved search. Adding filters here will give them the flexibility to filter this saved search to what they need while not changing what others see. So using our fields dropdown, we can add, we can remove, and we can rearrange the order that those filters are in. The Audience tab allows us to restrict access to this saved search. Each option is like a filter on viewers, on who can view this report. We're setting viewing filters on the Audience tab. We covered briefly the Email tab in a previous video, but you can set automated emails to be sent to users inside of your system on a schedule or based on certain results. The audit trail shows you who changed something, what did they change, and when did they change it. So you can see here the different changes made over time. The execution log shows who is using this and when was the last time they used this search. So that was a quick tour of the Save Search interface. We're going to be covering 4 ways of creating a new saved search. So the first way we're going to cover is creating a saved search from scratch. Then we'll cover creating one from a record, then from a view, and lastly, we'll cover from an existing saved search. So let's look into creating a saved search from scratch. While there are several ways to get into the new saved search page, I'll show you by navigating the menus, Reports, Saved Searches, All Saved Searches, New. Here we have a long list of record types, and we're going to select Item. This opens up the Saved Search page. And this is the interface we're going to use to select filters, to decide what information we want to display in the results, and who can view it. There's a lot of other features that we'll cover in our Tour of Saved Searches video. Next, we're going to move to creating a saved search from a record. Maybe you're not sure what saved search you want in this whole long list. You may not be familiar with the record types in NetSuite. So what I would recommend is going to the record itself that you're hoping to report on. So I'm going to go to Lists, Accounting, Items, and we're going to create a saved search on an item. I'm going to find an item and I can view that record. And you'll notice in the top right-hand corner, I have a search option. So if I select search, it's going to bring me to this page with a few filters. Now, the normal Save Search interface might be a little bit too intimidating to begin with. And if that's the case, you might feel more comfortable using these filters and using the Submit button to bring back results. But I do recommend trying to get used to the Save Search interface, as you'll find it has much more flexibility in not only the filters that you can select, but also the results that it produces once we run the search. So let's click Create Saved Search. And you'll notice here that we are in the same place that we were before when we created a saved search from scratch. And as we go through these other ways of creating saved search, we will always end up here in this interface. This is the Saved Search interface. Now, these filters, all of these filters work in very much the same way as selecting fields here on the Criteria tab. So starting with that page will kind of ease you in a little bit slower, but give it a try. Now we will move to creating a saved search from a view. So first, what is a view? A view is a display of a list. So let's go to our items list. From the items list, we have rows and columns. But you'll notice at the very top, we have view and a drop down. These views change what information is displayed in the list. So let's change it to basic, just so that you can see the difference. You'll notice our columns changed here, as well as the information provided back to us also changed. So if we want to create a view or saved search from this view, we're going to use this Customize View button. After clicking that button, you're going to notice that a very similar interface shows up. While this is very similar to the Save Search creation page, this is not the same. So please select More Options. Now we are in the same place that we were before. Like I said, each time we will end up here. You'll notice that there is a little bit of a difference as we have available as list view, available as dashboard view, and you might even see this public checkbox marked. Now, what this means, available as list view, is it allows that saved search to show up in this views list here. Without that checkbox, you won't be able to select it here, and that might be okay. So check and uncheck this as you wish. Our last example is going to be creating a saved search from a different saved search. So we're going to come to Reports, Saved Searches, All Saved Searches. Instead of going to New, we're going to click All Saved Searches. Here, we will find a saved search. I've already filtered my saved search list by type, and I selected item as that's what we've been using for our examples today. And I'm going to select a saved search here, items with bins. And I'm going to click Edit. When I click Edit, I can now customize this saved search to what I need. Maybe I want to add additional criteria. Maybe I would like to add additional columns of information. Maybe I want to change it completely. That's okay. It is best practice that before we start changing criteria or results, that we go ahead and give this a name. So we're going to give this a name, and we're going to use the Save As button. And what that does is it creates a copy of the saved search that we were on. So Save As, and it will run our saved search. Now we should be able to see our items saved search. So after clicking Save As, we can see our items with bins test again. Now, if we want to make those changes, now we can change our criteria, our results, permissions, all of that. Now you'll notice my gray Save As button has turned into a save with an arrow. Some of the saved searches that you will come to on our list of saved searches here will not have the gray Save As button, but will have the blue Save with an arrow button. In order to not overwrite someone else's work, stick to our best practice of renaming, and then we will use the arrow and select Save As. This is going to make sure that we don't overwrite someone else's work. If we were to edit the saved search and save only, then we would overwrite whatever that person had created. So now we can see we have both the test and the test 2. So those are the 4 ways that you can create a saved search in NetSuite. Some people find that saved searches can be a little frustrating because they have trouble finding which fields it is that they want. In this video, we'll go over some tips and tricks to make finding those fields easier. There's something I'd like you to keep in mind, that when we create a saved search, it will have fields available from all the records of that kind. We're working with an item saved search today, so that means it will include all the fields from inventory items, item groups, description lines, to services. Each item type can have different fields that others don't, but for the most part, you're still going to see all of the fields in our dropdown. While there will be plenty of exceptions to the rules we cover today, these tips and tricks are mainly meant to help ease that learning curve and make it a little bit easier. I'm going to navigate to our saved search here that we've been working with in our series, our items with bins test saved search. And the first tip we're going to cover is using keyboard shortcuts like Control F or our find shortcut. So what we will do is on our results tab here, we're going to scroll down. We're going to find our drop-down box. Now with the drop-down box open, we're going to use our keyboard keys here, hold down the Control key and press F, the letter F. When we do that, you'll notice that a little box pops up here. And now we can search this big long list. We can search for keywords. So the next tip that we're going to review is having the item record open. So we're on an item today. So I have an assembly item. This is an item I'm hoping shows up on my saved search. And that's my goal, is to get my saved search to pull this item record. So I have it open. Now, if I look through all of the fields on this item record, I begin to get a decent idea of what the fields might be called on our saved search. So if I want to use bins as an example. So I'm going to open my drop-down box. With that box open, I'm going to hold down the Control key and press the letter F. And my box opens at the top here. And when I click in it, I'm going to type in use bin. Now you'll notice I have 2 results here. I'm going to use my arrow key and it's going to hop me around my list. So here I've been able to find use bins in my list. And it's named exactly the same. So I'll select my used bins. The next option with a keyboard shortcut that we have is a simple one. So if we open our drop-down list and I press the letter U, It's going to jump me to the fields that start with the letter U. Because this list is in alphabetical order, once I'm on the letter U, if I then press the letter A, it's not going to jump me to the top of the list. As you notice, it jumps me to the bottom of the list. Now, these fields are join fields, and the alphabetical order starts over at the join fields. If you don't know what a join field is, we'll be covering those in a later video. If you want to start your alphabetical search over, you press cancel, and now we can search from the A's to the B's to the C's and so forth. The next tip that we'll go to is using the field's internal IDs. In order to use this feature, we have to have a preference set for our account. So if you hover over your home icon, the little house, and you go to Set Preferences, under the General tab, there's a field called Show Internal IDs. Make sure that that checkbox is marked and then press Save. Now, when we do that, it allows us to see the field ID for each field. And this is important because under the Sales and Pricing tab, we're going to look at our Calculate Quantity Discounts field. We're going to look for that field. So when we come here, we can see we're already in the C's. So I'm just going to scroll up a little bit. So what if I use my search box? And we can see that there is no CALC in the entire list of our fields here. So what is that field named in our Saved Search field list? If we hover over the field name and we see a tiny question mark, we can click and our field help box is going to show up here. In the top right-hand corner of the field help box, we see our field ID. A field ID is what the system calls this field. Sometimes it's exactly the same as what we see on our screen. But because NetSuite allows us to display different field names according to what form you're on, it can be a different name than what the field ID shows. So this could give us a hint at what we might be looking for inside of our saved search. So it looks like on the form, it says calculate quantity discounts. But as we saw, that wasn't in our list. So next we're going to search for overall quantity pricing type. Let's see if we can find that. So I'm going to use my search box and I'm going to search for overall because this is going to allow me to search for the word overall no matter where it is in the field name. And when I click my arrow, it jumps me down to overall quantity pricing type. That looks like it might be our field, overall quantity pricing type. So I'll select that field. Now, the last tip that I have is a very simple one. Really, it's more of just trial and error. And it's okay to use trial and error. There's nothing wrong with it. Even experienced consultants use the trial and error method. So what we want to do is we can combine tools here, open our drop-down box, and I'm going to use the word on hand. Now we can see there's 17 results for on hand. I'm going to click a couple times so that my orange highlighter is actually inside of my fields search box. And now we have it here. And you'll notice that there are plenty of fields with the word on hand in their name. So maybe I'm not sure which one it is that I want exactly. So what I can do is I can come here to my add multiple, and this is the same list, and I'm going to use my on hand here. And I'm going to select a few of these on hands fields. Because I want to add all of them. And now when I save and run, what I'm going to do is see which field gives me the data I want. So in my assembly record, if I go to the purchasing and inventory tab, and I come down to my locations, I can see that my quantity on hand is 12. So that's the data that I'm actually looking for. So in our Save Search, I can see that my bin on hand available says 10. My bin on hand count says 10, but my total quantity on hand says 12. That looks a lot more like the data that I'm looking for. So what I would do is come back to my results tab and remove those first two values so that the only one left is the one that had the value I was looking for. So these are just a few tips on how to find the fields you want in a saved search. Be on the lookout for our other videos in the Saved Search series as we cover the basic features building up to the advanced functionality. See you next time.
Thanks again for joining us for our NetSuite Saved Searches webinar. And as Emerald said, be on the lookout for more webcasts and videos surrounding this powerful functionality. At GSI, we are passionate about being a trusted advisor for growing companies and streamlining your processes to give you clear visibility so you can focus on the issues that really drive your business. For non-NetSuite users who may be running on QuickBooks or another on-prem ERP system, we'd like to offer you a free consultation with our NetSuite experts to go over your business processes and requirements to see if NetSuite may be a good scalable replacement. For current NetSuite users who may be looking for additional support, we'd like to offer you a free consultation of our SuiteCare managed services. SuiteCare is a comprehensive support offering that delivers a guided transformation of your NetSuite instance and covers all configuration, native functionality, customization, add-on modules, integration, and full cycle development. Please reach out to us at netsuitesales@getgsi.com, or you can call us at 855-474-4377 if you are interested in a free consultation with our team. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.